We are almost done with this CloudKit section of the bootcamp here, and we have, I think, two more videos, this one and the next one. And in this video, we are going to add push notifications to our CloudKit app. So this is super convenient because we can basically add push notifications with just a couple lines of code, and they're going to actually be real live push notifications. So when some other user does something that affects our database, it will actually send a push notification in real time to our other user's device. So it's really cool, really convenient that this is a feature. But really quickly before we get into the code, I just want to point out that our app is already connected to CloudKit, and we've already set up and added some items into our CloudKit container. So if you are just joining to just watch this video, you need to first connect your app to CloudKit, and then you need to create some sort of a record type inside your CloudKit container. If you don't know how to do that, just check out the last couple videos in this playlist. We covered it all in detail. So really quickly, just to bring you guys up to speed with where we're at in our current project, we started by adding iCloud capability to our project. That's basically adding CloudKit. And we added a new container to host our CloudKit database. And when we added iCloud, it actually automatically added push notifications for us. So we could have added this manually, separately, but Xcode just conveniently added it for us because it knows that we can do push notifications through iCloud. So we have the push notification capability already enabled inside our app. And if we take a look at our iCloud container really quickly, I'll bring it up here. It's pretty simple. We just have the regular users that come by default in the container, and we added some fruits. And our fruits are very basic data types. They just have names, and then we added an image to one of them in the last video just because we wanted to go over how to add images as CK assets into our CK records. So if you are just joining, all you need to do is create a CloudKit container and add some sort of record type to it. In this video, what we're going to do is basically subscribe to this record type so that anytime anyone in our app adds a new fruit to this list, we'll get a push notification to our device. And obviously this is a very basic example because we're just subscribing to this list, but the logic is the same as subscribing to pretty much anywhere in the CloudKit container. You basically pick a record type, you pick a location that you want to subscribe to in the database, and then you can subscribe to notifications anytime maybe an item gets added or deleted or edited or something like that. So with that said, let's jump back into our Xcode project here. And this is the main UI that we have in our app. It's very simple. We just have a list of fruits, and we have a text field to actually add fruits to CloudKit. And in this video, we're just going to create a totally new view. So let's right click on, so I'm going to go into our CloudKit bootcamp folder here. Let's right click and create a new file. This will be a SwiftUI view, and let's call this CloudKit push notification bootcamp. Let's click create. And I'm just going to make this full screen quickly because we're going to write some code before we actually send some push notifications. All right, and on our view here, let's create a quick VStack. Open the brackets there. Let's give it maybe some spacing. Let's add a button, and I'm going to use the title and action, so I can just add a quick title, and this will be request notification permissions, I think it is, and we'll press enter on the action, although we don't have an action yet. And then let's put one more button below it that says subscribe to notifications. All right, this is going to be a very simple view in this video. Let's create a view model for this view. So we'll create a class. Let's call it CloudKit push notification bootcamp view model. That was a lot of words. Let's make it conform to observable object, and we will open the brackets. Let's initialize that in our view here with an @state object, private var VM, set it equal to this CloudKit push notification bootcamp view model. All right, so now inside our view model, let's create a function that says request notification permissions. Let's call that inside our first button, so we'll call vm.request notification permissions. And we'll create one more function called subscribe to notifications. Let's open and close the parentheses. Let's open those brackets. And we got to write a little bit of code here. So the very first thing that we want to make sure when we're doing these push notifications is that we have the push notification capability enabled in our app. So of course we already did that when we added iCloud, but I want to just confirm with you guys that we have push notifications as a capability. And now that we have that, we need to request permission from the current user that we can actually send notifications to their app. This is the standard push notification message that you've seen in pretty much all apps. And to do that, we are going to call un user notification center dot current dot request authorization. And the authorization has options. So let's create some options up here. We'll say let options of type un authorization options, and we'll set it equal to an array. And we are going to add the alert, we want the sound, and we want the badge. These are like the three most common and normal options that you request when we request permission here. Let's pass in our options and then let's press enter on the completion handler. I'll make this a little bigger. This will be success and this will be error. And in here, let's first check if there is an error. So we'll say if let error equals error. And if there's an error, let's just print it out. We'll print out the error. And then we'll say else if success. So if we are successful in requesting permission, let's just print out notification permissions success. And then we'll say else. So if it is not successful and there's no error, then something definitely went wrong still. So let's just print out notification permissions error failure. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is an edge case, so we'll just leave it in there for now. So if you've been following my courses, back in the continued learning playlist, we actually did a video on local notifications. So not notifications from a remote server, but notifications from within the app itself. And when we did that, this was actually the same line of code. We request the authorization the same way, whether it's a push notification or a local notification. So this is actually probably not new to you guys. The one new caveat that we need to add here is if we are successful, we also need to call UI application. And let's get the shared instance of it. So we'll call it .shared. And then we'll call register for remote notifications. So this is a bit new. We did not have to do this for the local notifications. But this just registers the app for remote notifications through Apple push notification services. This is basically connecting into that push notification capability that we added a couple minutes ago. And the one caveat with this function is that it needs to be called from the main thread. So before we call it, let's actually just dispatch queue.main.async, and let's just do that on the main thread just to be safe. All right, I'll delete this. So that's all the code to request permissions to send notifications. And now we want to write some code to actually subscribe so that the user can actually get those notifications. Because just because they approved some notifications does not mean they're going to actually get any on their device. We need to specifically subscribe each user to notifications. And this is actually handy because as we subscribe, we can also choose what notifications we want them to subscribe to. So our database right now is just a bunch of fruits, but if this was a complex database and we had fruits, we had users, we had other content, we could determine exactly what in the database we want them to subscribe to. We don't need every user to be subscribed to everything unless we want to. So in this subscribe to notifications, we need to create a CloudKit subscription. So we'll say let subscription equals a CK query. And we don't have access to it yet in this file because we did not yet import CloudKit. So let's add a CK query subscription, and we'll open the parentheses. And we want to use the one with the record type, a predicate, and we're going to use a subscription ID as well as options. So let's press enter here. The record type, now if you're just joining, you need to create your own record type in your CloudKit database, but if you've been following along, the record type we used in the last couple of videos is called fruits. So I'm just going to copy that record type and come back here and make that the record type inside this subscription here. The predicate I also covered in the last video, in our CRUD video here. So we created some other predicates, basically sort of like filters for our query. But we're just going to use this very basic predicate. So I'm just going to copy it over. And it's literally just ns predicate where the value is true. So it's literally just going to be any time where the record type is actually fruits, where that is true. Let's take our predicate, put it in here. Then it's going to ask us for a subscription ID. So now this is basically an ID for us so that we can manage this subscription. Because later on, we're going to be able to see all of the subscription IDs that a user is registered for. And this will be how we determine which subscription is which. So this is not something that the user is going to see, but it's something for you to manage and keep track of all of your possible subscriptions. So for right now, let's just call this fruit added to database. I like to be very explicit here in what the subscription is for, not only for my sake when I come back and try to look at the code and we get these IDs and we know exactly what they're doing, but also because if we're going to add a bunch of subscriptions to our app, we want to make sure we're not duplicating the IDs because then it would overlap and that would cause issues, of course. And lastly, we need to add in some options. So if I press the period here, we get a couple completions. So when do we want this notification to fire? So we're looking at the fruits. So we could do every time a new fruit is added, that would be on creation. We could do anytime a fruit is deleted, that would be on deletion. And anytime a fruit is updated, that would be on update. So we're going to do on creation. Anytime we add a new fruit, we're going to get a push notification. And then we can call subscription.notificationinfo. And this is a configuration for a subscription's push notifications. So here we want to add what the actual push notification should look like for this subscription. So when this happens, what should the notification look like? If I hold the option button and click on this, we can see that it is of type ck_subscription.notificationinfo. So we need to actually create one of those first. So let's say let notification, and we'll set it equal to a ck_subscription.notificationinfo. And I'll open the parentheses, and I think we can just go with the blank initializer here. Let's go with that and see if we get any errors. So we have our notification, and then inside this notification, we want to add the data that we want the user to see. So we'll say notification dot, let's call notification dot, I think it's title. We might have to play around with some of these, but let's go with title for now. And let's set this equal to, there's a new fruit. And then we'll say notification dot body, alert body, and then we'll set this equal to maybe open the app to check your fruits. I don't know. And also we want to add a notification dot sound name, sorry. And we're just going to set that equal to default, which is the default sound name that comes like with the system. And if I hold the option button and click on sound name, it even says if you use the string default, the system will play the default sound. So nice to know that that is there. And now that we have what our notification is going to actually look like, let's just set subscription.notificationinfo equal to our notification. Finally, last but not least, we need to actually save this subscription for our current user in CloudKit, in our CloudKit database. So we'll access our ck_container.default. And these are in the public cloud database. That's where we've been saving our fruits. And we just want to save, just like we saved before, except this time we want to save a subscription instead of a record. So we'll save our subscription. We get our completion handler here. And this will be our returned subscription and returned error. And in here, let's just say if let error equals returned error. Let's just print out the error, and we'll just say else. So if we don't get an error, let's just print out successfully subscribed to notifications. Awesome. Last thing we want to do is obviously call this function from our view here. So I'm going to call vm.subscribe to notifications. All right, and I just realized there's actually one more button that I want to add to this view here. So let's copy this button, let's paste one more, and let's say unsubscribe to notifications. And in here, we're going to call another function. So let's create another func in our view model. Func unsubscribe to notifications. And in here, we're going to very simply call ckcontainer.default.public cloud database because we need to access that same database. And then we're going to call .delete. And just like we were saving and adding a subscription, we are now deleting a subscription. So same way we deleted a record with a record ID, we are now deleting a subscription with a subscription ID. And of course, our subscription ID, which we manually added right here, is called fruit added to database. So I'm going to copy that and paste it here for now. And then we'll press enter, and this will be returned ID and returned error. In here, let's just say if let error equals error, returned error. And then we will print out the error. We'll say else. Let's print out successfully unsubscribed. And one thing I want to point out while we're writing this code is that we're calling delete with subscription ID and we have the exact subscription ID. If we don't have the subscription ID and we want to just see what subscriptions this user has, we can also call ckcontainer.default.public database and then I think it's fetch all subscriptions. So we can literally just fetch all of these subscriptions that the user has and then check those subscriptions for their IDs and then use those IDs to call delete on which ones we want to delete. So I'm not going to go through all that, but I just want to let you guys know that that is there and I'll comment it out for now. And let's call this from our view. So I'm going to come down here and call vm.unsubscribe to notifications. Make sure that that view looks good. I'm going to run this first on a simulator, although we're going to have to do it on an actual device in a second because we can request and subscribe on the simulator, but we can't actually receive push notifications. You need a real device to receive real push notifications. So I'm first just going to test to make sure we're getting all these success printouts and not errors. And then I'm going to actually do it on my real device. So let's take this view and make it the first view in our app. I'm going to come up to my app.swift file. That's where your app main call is. And let's make this the first view. Let's run the simulator. And the first thing that our user needs to do is request notification permissions. So now we made this a button, so we're manually going to request it. But in your actual app, chances are this is going to be something that's like automatically done. Maybe when a user opens your app or enters a certain screen, you want to just automatically display the notification. You don't want to make them request it usually. So I'll click this and we get our would you like to send notifications? Obviously I'm going to allow it. And just to point out here, it says includes alerts, sounds, and badges. And that's exactly the options that we had added into our request. Let's allow it. And we got notification permission success in our console. Let's subscribe. Successfully subscribe to notifications, and let's unsubscribe. Successfully unsubscribed. All right, so all of our functions seem to be working well. And now we just want to make sure that we actually are getting these notifications. So again, we can't actually receive push notifications on the simulator. So I'm going to actually change the device and run it on my actual iPhone. And I don't have a way to actually do this on the computer right now, so you guys can't see what I'm doing. But what I'm going to do is basically open this app on my iPhone. I'm going to request notification permission, and then I'm going to subscribe. I'm not going to click the unsubscribe, obviously, because we just want to subscribe for right now. And you guys can see that I got the printouts down here. Notification is successful, and we subscribed to the notifications. And now we just want to test that after we're subscribed, are we actually going to receive these pushes? So I'm going to actually take our CloudKit CRUD Bootcamp. I'm going to actually take the view from our last video, the CloudKit CRUD Bootcamp. I'm going to go to our app.swift file and make that the first view in the screen. And I'm going to run the CloudKit CRUD bootcamp on the simulator here. So let's change this back to the simulator. And I'm going to run this file. And just to point out, our CloudKit CRUD bootcamp view, the container we're using there is the same CloudKit container that we are using in our push notification now. So it's the same list of fruits. So if I add a fruit to here, it should send it to the CloudKit database and then push it to my other device. So I'm going to close the app on my actual iPhone now, and I'm going to add a new fruit. And I'm going to click add. And I don't know if you guys heard it, but I got that push notification right to my device. I can see it says there's a new fruit in the title, and it says open the app to check your fruits. And I'm going to add one more. This time I'm screen recording my iPhone. Let's call this my last fruit. Let's click add. And then I'm going to open up the app quickly and unsubscribe to notifications. And then close the app one more time. Try a final fruit that I'm going to add. And now we should not be subscribed, so we should not receive the push notification. And I think it worked. And for those of you who don't have an actual iPhone to test this on, I have a quick video here of what we just did. I screen recorded my iPhone. You can ignore the fact that I have 34,000 emails. You should see in a second we get that push notification come through. There's an open app to check your fruits. And then I came into the app. I clicked on it to open the app. I clicked the unsubscribe button here. And then I went to add another fruit, and nothing else came through the app because we successfully unsubscribed. So I just want to quickly show you guys what it looked like. Again, we have there's a new fruit. So this is our title that we added, and this was the body. And this will be the name of your app up here. It says where it says Swiftful Thinking Advanced Learning. And if you have an app icon, that will pop up right here, which will make your notification look so much better. All right, guys, that was it for sending push notifications in CloudKit. All you need to do is create pretty much anything in your database, any kind of record in your database, and then you just subscribe to that in the database. It's really not that complicated once you get used to it. We request the permission, and then we subscribe to the notification. In here, we can customize exactly how we want that notification to look, and we can add a whole bunch of different subscriptions for different parts of our apps. So we could use different subscription IDs, we could add different predicates, we could use different record types, we could do it when records are created, when they're deleted, when they're updated, all kinds of really cool stuff we can add to our app. All right, thank you guys for watching. I think we have one more quick CloudKit video in the next video. As always, I'm Nick, this is Swiftful Thinking, and I will see you in the next video.